Jack, our love really was a losing game.
Adam, we've been over this. We're just friends.
Whatever. It's all about me and Mr. Jones now.
Adam, come on. You knew I was no good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One More Music Pod.
Today we're diving into Back to Black, the critically acclaimed soul-soaked masterpiece by Amy Winehouse.
We'll explore Amy's meteoric rise, her musical influences, and what made Back to Black such an iconic, unforgettable album. So, hello Jack, back again. How are you doing?
Hello there. Yeah, I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. This week then, what have you been up to?
Well, I want to tell you about a band called Operation Ivy.
Okay.
So, it's a band that cropped up a few times when we were doing the research for our American Idiots episode.
Yeah.
They're one of the punk bands that played at the Gilman Street back in the 80s and early 90s. They were a big influence on Green Day. Mm. And for a while now, I've been meaning to go back and give their album a listen. Finally got around to doing it this week. And yeah, it's good. It's kind of what you'd expect. It's very raw, unpolished, sort of aggressive, fast punk music.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good album. I really enjoyed listening to it. And the new Haim album is out. There's a song on there called Take Me Back, which I think is my favourite one on the album. It's got lines like, Molly took a shit in the back of the truck, didn't even notice she was too coked up. I think we've all been there, right? Haven't we?
We have, yeah. Lovely summer tune there.
Yeah. It's a song about, wanting to go back to the good old days. You know?
Yeah. You can have shit that you want. You know what I mean? God, yeah. Let's go back to those old days.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Jack. Sounds like you've been busy.
Yeah.
Busy. Myself, would you like to...
Hit me.
Yeah. Not a great deal, really.
I'm glad I asked.
Absolutely. Been a bit warm, hasn't it? Kind of mentioned the weather.
It has been very
warm here in the UK, and I think it's only going to get warmer next week. Which, as an aging man, I do struggle with sometimes.
Did you say aging or Asian?
Aging man.
Sorry. Yeah.
I went to, Jack, as I do every year, Hi-Fi Show Northwest.
Yeah.
Which is held at Cranage Hall near Home Chapel, and it's just a big nerd fest for hi-fi enthusiasts. Really, you've got
looking at stereos,
getting into a dark room with lots of other men and
aux cables,
and just enjoying some high quality sound.
Yeah.
But they do, and this is really why I go. They've got a huge vinyl fair.
Yes.
So
you do love your vinyls.
I do love my vinyls. Massive courtyard out there with thousands of vinyls, of which I can't afford. But one day, I'll be able to go and splash the dosh. I did pick up one record though, Jack. I picked up the Nationals' first album, and I'm nearly there with my collection of the National records.
Nice.
So I've got one more to go, and then my collection is complete.
Which is the one that you're after?
I'm currently after Boxer. Yeah, I've not actually seen it anywhere, any of these record fairs, so maybe it's a bit of a rarity.
Yeah, maybe if there's anyone listening that would know where to find it.
Yeah. Or just wants to buy it for me. Much appreciated.
Okay, so just before we get into today's episode, just a quick look back to episode 7, which was Royal Blood, and we've had a few comments from people come in, which, again, we're always really grateful for.
Thank you. So, first one is from user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Nice and snappy username there. So they said, really good live band. Saw them at Glastonbury about 10 years ago. Start to finish, fantastic.
Nice. We had a comment from Craig's Vinyl on Instagram. Saw them play this album live at the MK Bowl, supporting Foo Fighters. Amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Supporting Foo Fighters, nice. Collie Wally on TikTok said, in regards to the song Little Monster, great song, great band, nice and concise there from Collie Wally. So, Jack, In the last episode, your homework was to find a link between Royal Blood and their self-titled album Royal Blood and today's album Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. So how did you get on this week?
Yeah, this was a tricky one because obviously two very different acts, aren't they? But I've come up with something.
Okay.
And we're going to play 6 Degrees of Separation. So the album Royal Blood is, of course, by the band Royal Blood.
Yep.
And they have collaborated with the singer and guitarist Josh Homme, who co-produced their 2021 album Typhoons.
Okay.
Now, as we all know, Josh Homme is the lead singer of the band Queens of the Stone Age.
He is.
Queens of the Stone Age have recorded with Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters and Nirvana. He did the drums on their album Like Clockwork and all the bits and pieces as well. Dave Grohl has collaborated with Paul McCartney, including on the Grammy-winning song Cut Me Some Slack. So yeah, Paul McCartney has worked with Mark Ronson.
Yeah.
Okay. And he produced Paul's 2013 album New. And Mark Ronson produced and co-wrote the album Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. Right then, 2006. It was, of course, the year that Back to Black was released. But there was lots of other music out in that time too.
Yep,
as ever, we thought we'd pick a few albums, give them a listen, see what we thought.
Yep.
Decide which one we're going to love, like, and skip. And this time, we've gone for Stadium Arcadium by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Eyes Open by Snow Patrol, and The Hardest Way to Make an Easy Living by The Streets. Should we start with Stadium Arcadium?
So yeah, Jack, I'm not going to pretend I've got endless facts and interesting tidbits about the album, but I do know it's a banger.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a banger. Funk rock, melodic, alt rock greatness, so many songs that you can dance to. Down in California being the obvious one, Snow, Hey Oh, and some of the more kind of, I guess, the more obscure tracks, Charlie, Wet Sand, I like those two as well. Just that there's lots of variety on this album. It's some good stuff.
Yeah, I think the Chili's had a bit of a renaissance in the early 2000s, didn't they? So we'd had By the Way came out a couple of years, maybe 2002-ish, I think. Yeah. I remember at the time just listening to it over and over and over.
Yeah.
Stadium Arcadium, still a really good follow-up.
Yeah.
28 songs, 2.5 hours long, this album.
It's a monster of an album, isn't it?
Yeah, the big hit songs. So you got like Danny California, Humpty Bump, Tell Me Baby, that's a good one. Really enjoyed that song.
Then we have Eyes Open by Snow Patrol. What did you think of that, Jack?
Yeah, very enjoyable listen. You're All I Have, which is that opening song. Love that. Hands Open as well. That's a highlight for me.
Yeah.
And I think we have to talk about Set Fire to the Third Bar as well, which is the song that features Martha Wainwright.
Yeah. That
could even be seen as like the best Snow Patrol song.
I think so. Yeah. I think for me, Jack, this was probably their breakthrough album into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Obviously their first album, Final Straw, which is a brilliant album. But I'd say they were very much kind of your typical small indie rock band at that point, whereas this, I think, put them onto a bigger platform. Yeah, it's some great tracks. Open Your Eyes, that's probably my favourite track on the album. And then our final album, Jack.
Yeah, The Hardest Way to Make an Easy Living by The Streets. So, Adam, tell me about this one.
So, one of my favourite artists, Jack, probably. The Streets.
Okay.
Not my favourite Streets album, however, it's still a very solid record. I think there's maybe a bit of a shift in tone, so that's maybe why I'm not as much of a fan of some of their previous stuff. But again, it's Mike Skinner at the time going through quite a rough patch, and that really is reflected in his music. Very honest, raw, self-aware album. It's bold, it's messy, it's compelling in a quite a unique way. So yeah, for me, it's a good album. It's a great album.
Adam, I'm afraid I'm about to rain all over your parade here, but I've just never been that into the Streets.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm happy to accept that I'm probably in the wrong here because absolutely everybody seems to love this group, but yeah, they've just never really clicked with me for some reason. I went back and I thought I'd give it another go this week. I wanted to kind of see if it's kind of over time, maybe I'd kind of relate to it a bit more now. And it was okay. I still didn't love it, but there's a few decent songs on there. Like When You Wasn't Famous, I did like that song. But yeah, the whole kind of like garage, grime style of music, it's just, I've never really been into it.
Yeah, and this is definitely not a band to kind of, if you wanted to get into listen to more garage and more grime, you wouldn't listen to the streets necessarily. There's a lot more accessible artists in the streets that you could try first before these.
So yeah, wasn't a massive fan of it, and I may as well just say it now. This is the one I'm going to skip. I think it's obvious.
I think it's pretty obvious, that one, Jack. Should we do?
What would you skip?
Okay, what would I skip? Sorry.
Let's get them out of the way.
Probably Stadium Arcadium.
Okay.
It's a tough one because I do like all of these albums. But I think if I was had to pick it, Stadium Arcadium.
And I suppose with the Chili's, you've got By the Way, haven't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. I'm not really a fan of the length of the album. The fact it's a double album. And I thought with albums, I like listening to them in full, and I try and kind of look at them in a more comprehensive way, and I can't with this album because it's just so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one I would skip.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so shall we go in the middle then? The one that we like.
Okay. I like The Hardest Way to Make It Even Live.
Okay,
Easy
cool.
Living.
The one I like is the Chili Peppers, which I think means, oh my God, we've picked the same one as the album that we love.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah, Snow Patrol.
Eyes Open, Snow Patrol, absolutely. Great album.
Really enjoyable album. There's like 10, 11, 12 songs on this. They're all... There's no real bad ones on it.
No.
Yeah, really enjoyable.
So, Jack, this is what we're here for. Amy Winehouse and her album Back to Black. I guess we should, as always, maybe have a little look at her childhood or upbringing.
Yeah.
So, born on the 14th of September 1983 to Jewish parents, Amy Jade Winehouse grew up in a family with deep musical roots. Her two maternal uncles were professional jazz musicians, and her paternal grandmother, Cynthia, had been a singer who once dated renowned English jazz saxophonist Ronnie Scott, co-founder of the iconic Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in Soho.
Her father, Mitch, was a big Frank Sinatra fan and often sang his songs around the house.
So, musically, Jack, in terms of her journey, she started experimenting with her brother's guitar, which led to her eventually buying one of her own. And at that point, she started writing her own songs. She also briefly worked as an entertainment journalist for the World Entertainment News Network, or WEN. I guess she was trying to balance that idea of possibly being a writer and journalist while also being a musician. Her best friend, soul singer Tyler James, eventually passed one of her demo tapes to an A&R scout setting on this path to stardom.
Amy's musical influences. Amy drew inspiration from artists across all sorts of genres. Jazz, so legends like Frank Sinatra, Dina Washington. These had a huge impact on her vocal style and emotional delivery.
She's also inspired by Thelonious Monk and Ray Charles. Both influenced her sense of rhythm, musical phrasing, and vocal improvisation. Also, Aretha Franklin's raw power and soulful expression really played a key role in developing Amy's own rich and emotive sound.
Yeah, that's what I get when I listen to like Amy's records, is like a real Aretha Franklin sort of vibe. Yeah, that's what really speaks out to me.
Bigger influences, wasn't it? She's,
So, in her teenage years, Amy discovered more contemporary voices such as Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, and the Fugees. These artists contributed to her storytelling ability and brought a modern R&B edge to her songwriting, blending introspection with rhythm and flow. So let's look at Amy's early career. In 2002, Amy was signed to Simon Fuller's 19 management. And
started to collaborate with producer Salem Rennie, forming that strong creative partnership that kind of went on throughout Amy Winehouse's career. And Remy's production really matched Amy's sound very, very well and kind of laid that early foundation as to what would later become a debut album. And a side note on Salem Rennie, worked with artists like Alicia Keys, the Fugees, Doja Cat, and Nelly Furtado. So quite an impressive resume there.
Okay, so let's have a look at her debut album, Frank, which came out in October 2003. It was a well-received album, which she won the Ivor Novello Award for. And the New York Times complimented her original lyrics and called the music a glossy mixture of breezy funk, dub, and jazz-inflected soul. But, Adam, Amy was not a big fan of this album. I was reading into it, and the label brought in a lot of writers and producers to kind of tinker with the songs, and she didn't like that kind of outside interference.
Yeah.
She told The Observer in an interview in 2004, "Some things on this album make me go to a little place that's fucking bitter. I've never heard the album from start to finish."
Wow, she really wasn't happy, was she?
Yeah.
And I do like that, because you can imagine a lot of artists that when they're this kind of early on in their career, just go with it and allow all this interference.
Yeah.
But the fact that she was very unhappy with what was produced and she'd never listened to the album start to finish, really shows her kind of authenticity as an artist.
Adam tried to make me a jingle, but I said no, no, no. Anyway, let's talk about Back to Black. Released on the 27th of October 2006. Recorded at a few studios, actually. So there was the Instrument Zoo in Miami, Daptone in New York City, Alido, also in New York City, Chung King in New York, and Metropolis in London. Released on the Island label, and producer credits go to Mark Ronson. Coolest guy in music?
Nope, that's us, Jack.
Good point. And also Salaam Remi. So, as we said, he'd worked with Amy on her Frank album. He was kind of one of the few people that she actually enjoyed working with. So she brought him over onto this one too. Chart positions did pretty well. Number 1 in the UK and number 2 in the US. Sales to date, so as of March 2025, it's sold 4.5 million copies in the UK and is the UK's second best-selling album of the 21st century. Adam, any idea what the number 1 is?
Not a clue, Jack.
It's Adele and her album 21.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, I did not know that.
And it sold 20 million sales worldwide. Wow. One of the biggest selling records of all time. 3.9 billion streams on Spotify. Late 2005, after the success of the debut album Frank, it was now time to write the follow-up. But Amy had a case of writer's block.
Some of the causes of this writer's block, and initially there was, as we've mentioned previously, that post-Frank disillusionment, that she was unhappy with how her album was promoted by Island Records. And she said the marketing was fucked, the promotion was terrible, everything was a shambles. It's frustrating because you work with so many idiots, but they're nice idiots. So you can't be like, you're an idiot, and they know they're idiots. That's what she said in The Observer in 2004. She very much felt creatively isolated at the time, and her relationship with the music industry grew increasingly strained.
Around this time, Amy's lifestyle became increasingly chaotic. She was drinking heavily, partying, and involved in tumultuous relationships. These experiences will later fuel Back to Black, but in the interim, they seem to leave her creatively adrift.
And off the back of that, on top of it's that pressure to deliver, isn't it? After the success of Frank, the difficult second album, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they always say, don't you? Like, you get your whole lifetime to make your first album, and then you get 18 months to do the second one. Yeah. That's a very good point. And she just didn't want to write songs at the time that felt too forced or kind of formulaic. And she often said she didn't like writing just for the sake of it. She needs to feel something intensive. But she got through all that, and how did she do it? Well, the turning point came in early 2006 when she met producer Mark Ronson, who inspired her inspiration. She'd just gone through a breakup with Blake Fielder Civil, which triggered a rush of emotions.
Winehouse reportedly told Ronson about the breakup and how she had gone back to black, a phrase that struck with him immediately and became the foundation of the title track.
Ronson later said, "She'd been going through a rough time and hadn't written for a long while. When we met, it just clicked. Within hours, she was writing the lyrics again."
She felt at the time she had more clarity when writing, and songs like Back to Black, Love is a Losing Game, and You Know I'm No Good poured out of her in short, concentrated sessions.
The producers, Mark Ronson and Salaam Remi, they helped to create that 1960s Motown and soul feel of the album. They did this with things like the prioritisation of live music, so there's no sampling on here, minimal overdubs. Use of analogue tape as well to maintain a vintage warm sound. And Amy recorded most of her vocals quickly, often in 1 or 2 takes. And the album came together throughout the spring and summer of 2006 and came out in October 2006.
So I guess we need to talk about the album cover a little bit, Jack, don't we?
Yeah. It's very straightforward, isn't it? So she's sat on a simple wooden chair against a dark bluish, blackish wall.
Yep, staring straight down the lens, isn't she, of the camera, which kind of, I guess, shows this sense of maybe like vulnerability, introspection that she felt at the time. Very minimalistic, very much focus on Amy herself as the artist. There's no kind of nothing getting in the way.
Yeah. So the photo itself was taken by the photographer Misha Richter, who shot the picture, and Misha talked about the experience with The Guardian in 2013 and said, "In 2006, I was asked to take some photographs of Amy Winehouse for publicity purposes and possibly to provide some artwork for her new album. I'd seen her play live and was familiar with Frank, her debut, but I hadn't heard the new album and didn't know what it was going to be called. On the day of the shoot, Amy was 4 hours late. She'd been at the wedding of one of her oldest friends the day before and had partied all night long and hadn't been to bed. We started out taking photographs in a bar on Portobello Road, then we moved to my house in Kensal Rise. There was a room I called the Black Room. It had a black carpet and a cupboard with blackboard paint on it. I stored negatives and contact sheets in there. Although the room is dark, light comes through the bay window in the early evening. I took the last shot of the day there. The record company decided they wanted it for the album cover. And when they told me they were going to call it Back to Black, it all made sense. Serendipity, I guess. I feel privileged to have created the cover for this great album and to have collaborated with an artist like Amy. I rarely photograph musicians. When I do, it has to be someone I like and respect. I never managed to see Amy perform live again. The last time I saw her was at this shoot. That is a real tragedy for me."
So, Jack, into the album itself, that first track, Rehab. They tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no. This song's defiant tone and brutally honest lyrics reflects Amy's resistance to conforming to expectations, especially when it comes to her lifestyle and her struggles.
The inspiration for Rehab came from a real-life incident. Amy Winehouse's management at the time encouraged her to attend a rehabilitation clinic for alcohol addiction after concerns arose about her drinking and erratic behaviour. Amy, known for her fierce independence and resistance to outside control, famously refused. She later recalled the experience. "I was like, no, 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 and then I just walked away." This literal refusal became the hook of the song.
Musically, Rehab blends 1960s Motown with a modern twist. Mark Ronson's production gave the song a vintage vibe with horn sections, a steady beat and a doo-wop style backing vocals, while Winehouse's powerful, emotive voice channels classic soul singers like Aretha Franklin and Etta James. And of course, this song won the Grammy in 2008.
This song did become a massive hit, but in later years it will be seen in a more tragic light. So, of course, Amy did eventually go to rehab several times in the years following the song's release as her addiction problems worsened. And you could see how, Rehab, once seen as like a sort of cheeky anthem of rebellion, came to represent the complexity and pain behind a public persona.
Yeah, quite a sad song on reflection, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the time, Amy didn't believe she needed any help and felt that her issues were more emotional than clinical. She once said, "I didn't need to go to rehab. I needed someone to tell me not to do what I was doing, and I would have listened." So track 2, Jack, You Know I'm No Good. A sultry, brutally honest and steeped in vintage soul with modern confessional lyrics. Arguably one of the most emotionally complex and musically rich pieces in Amy's back catalogue.
At its core, You Know I'm No Good is a confessional song about infidelity. It's about self-sabotage and emotional damage. Amy lays herself bare in this song. She admits her flaws and her destructive behaviour in relationships, but without asking for sympathy or redemption. Lines like, "I cheated myself like I knew I would. I told you I was trouble. You know that I'm no good."
In this, she portrays herself both as the villain and the victim, somebody who's painfully self-aware yet unable to break the cycle of emotional chaos. The lyrics refer to moments of jealousy, betrayal, drunken fights and regret, told with vivid imagery that keeps the song grounded and real.
And Adam, there's a great line from the song that describes a bar fight. "By the time I'm out the door, you tear men down like Roger Moore." So I was looking into this, and Roger Moore was actually asked about this line and asked like
great journalism there.
Yeah. And he was asked like why he thought Amy would have chosen to include him in the lyrics, And he wasn't too sure. The best he could come up with was that she either needed a word that rhymed with door, or she couldn't find a word to rhyme with Connery.
Like it. I like it. Can you imagine Roger Moore being asked that question, just being like really stumped? Like he's got no idea that he was even included in this song. Yeah, there he is being asked about.
Yeah, I wonder if he knew who Amy Winehouse was.
Probably not. Probably not. Musically, the song blends old school soul, like think Dusty Springfield, jazz and hip hop influenced beats and quite bluesy melodies.
Mark Robson, as I put in the notes.
Football manager.
Mark Ronson said the song was one of his favourites to work on because of how personal and unfiltered it was. I think it's quite interesting to see this song as a bit of a companion piece to Rehab. So whereas with Rehab it's very defiant, You Know I'm No Good is quite confessional and sort of self-punishing, isn't it? Yeah, maybe she's kind of admitting to herself that it's down to her to kind of to try and get over these addictions rather than relying on other people to do it for her. I found a very good quote from the Guardian journalist Laura Barton on this song. She said, Amy frequently gave her songs a familiar, almost domestic setting, a world of kitchen floors, chips and pitter, Tanqueray and Stella. I'm in the tub, you on the seat, she sings on You Know I'm No Good. Lick your lips as I soak my feet, then you notice little carpet burn. My stomach drops and my guts churn. It was a verse that started off like a Degas painting, naked and intimate and warmly erotic, but swiftly dissembled into something sad and messy and ruined. Kind of like my life, I suppose.
Just a bit, yeah.
Okay, track 3, Me and Mr. Jones. So, this is a frustrated, funny love song. Amy is calling out a man, Mr. Jones, who stood her up and she's not pleased. This is maybe one of the best opening lines to a song I've ever heard. So it opens with the line, what kind of fuckery is this? Sets the tone of the song. It's bold, it's unfiltered, and you don't mess with Amy.
I like that. I might start using that a little bit more myself.
Yeah.
Walking into work. I don't say morning, I just say, what kind of fuckery is this?
Yeah. I think I want that on my gravestone, actually.
Yeah, that would be great. Nothing else. No other details apart from that.
So she was furious that she's been ditched by someone to go to a concert with another woman, and she's both sulking and snarling. But beneath the sass is real longing. She wants his loyalty and his time.
Question is, though, Jack, who was Mr. Jones? So, in interviews, she confirmed that Mr. Jones is Nas, the iconic New York City rapper. They shared a birthday, September 14th, and Salam Remy, who produced this track, worked with both of them. And he later confirmed this too and said they had a close friendship. She reportedly was infatuated with him from afar before they actually met, and this song captures that messy crush energy, part fangirl, part scorn lover. Her vocals are warm, sassy and slightly restrained, a contrast to the wailing emotion on tracks like Love Is a Losing Game, often cited by critics as one of the funniest and most character-driven songs.
So, Adam, I've got a fun fact for you. So, when they were recording the vocals for this song, Amy had left a kettle on in the kitchen next door to the studio. Halfway through the song, the kettle started whistling and she ran out of the studio to attend it. Now, the rest of the team didn't hear that whistling and didn't know what was going on. And they didn't notice that the whistling from the kettle got picked up on the recording.
Okay.
So Salim Ramy, the producer, recalled the moment years later. He said, Amy was making tea in the kitchen in the next room and the kettle went off halfway through the song and we didn't necessarily hear it. And as the song was going on, we just hear her run off and we're like, what's happened? So when we're listening back to the vocals and halfway through the song, the tea kettle starts. It's there on the record and you can't actually hear it, but it's this high frequency. Now, I've tried to pick it out, but I can't.
I didn't hear anything on that track that resembled a kettle.
No. But, hey, if anyone else listening has heard of it,
get in touch. One more music product. So, Jack, track 4, Just Friends, a laid-back reggae-inflected soul track showing off Winehouse's versatility. The rhythm is very chilled, groove-heavy vibe that's quite different from the Motown-inspired production found elsewhere on Back to Black. The lyrics explore unrequited desire and emotional boundaries. Amy reflects on a complicated relationship where two people pretend to be just friends while clearly wanting more, or possibly hiding the complications of going further.
The tone is bittersweet and introspective, reveals her struggle with emotional honesty and longing. It's a snapshot of a relationship mired in ambiguity, intimacy, and restraint. Slant magazine cited Just Friends as a standout on the album thanks to its pulsing reggae groove, echoing 1960s influences. So, track 5 is Back to Black, the title track of the album and a song often regarded as Winehouse's greatest work.
Deeply personal and emotional song, it chronicles Amy's heartache over a breakup with Blake Fielder Civil, who had left her to reunite with an ex-girlfriend. The black in the title metaphorically represents depression, mourning, and emotional emptiness.
Yep, so in Amy's own words, it's about being in a relationship that's gone wrong and going back to what you know, which is a dark place. I was really depressed and going back to this blackness. It's not just about heartbreak, it's about grief. When we split up, it was because of me being really clingy and he went back to his ex-girlfriend. I was completely crushed.
Amy and Blake's relationship is well documented. The pair met in 2005 in a bar in Camden and bonded over their shared musical tastes. Their relationship was intense and deeply influential, both personally and artistically. The heartbreak caused by this breakup was a major influence for many of the songs on this record, including this one, as mentioned, Back to Black.
The song itself is built on a retro soul foundation, reminiscent of 1960s girl groups like the Shangri-Las or the Ronettes, mixed with modern elements. So it features a deep, moody piano riff, simple yet punchy drum lines, lush orchestration with strings and horns, and gospel-style backing vocals. Mark Ronson's production gives it a timeless, cinematic feel, amplifying the emotional weight of the lyrics. Of course, the song features that iconic chorus, "We only said goodbye with words, I died 100 times. You go back to her and I go back to black." This chorus, it just hits like a gut punch, doesn't it? While he's returning to this other relationship, she's gone back to nothingness. She's gone back to pain, addiction, solitude. The black represents the emotional void and self-destruction. This is one of the most emotionally honest breakup songs ever written, I think. She's not just saying that she's sad, she paints her grief in darkness, in cycles, in addiction. It's soul music in the truest sense, the sound of someone bleeding artfully from the inside out. This song really is a masterpiece.
Yeah. Okay, track 6, Love is a Losing Game, one of Amy's most haunting and poetic songs. Again, hinting back at that kind of reflection on romance and how for her it was a failure. It's stripped of any kind of bravado, sarcasm, or even anger. And instead it's kind of just pure resignation, which, you know, from that opening track where she's very kind of defiant of rehab and, as she gets further and further through this album, she becomes more and more vulnerable, doesn't she? And that's reflected in this song. She's kind of accepted the cost of love may outweigh any kind of gains. Love is a losing game, one I wish I never played. And that's the song's core message, really. Love wasn't just painful, but it was also a mistake. There's lots of deep regret here.
Musically, the song has a minimalist arrangement, so just the soft guitar and light instrumentation that lets Amy's raw, heartfelt vocals take centre stage. Though I battle blind, love is a fate resigned. These lines express the futility that she feels, so love is a game that you can't win, and she plays it blindly, destined to lose.
Yeah, and we look at these lyrics, we kind of forget she wasn't that old, really, when she was writing these lyrics.
So she must have been 21, 22-ish?
Yeah. To write lyrics like this is incredibly mature, isn't it? And she exposes herself in all of these songs. And it's for a song that's only 2.5 minutes, there's so much heartbreak poured into this song.
Did you know, Adam, that Prince famously covered this song live?
Didn't you?
Yeah, and he called it one of the best songs ever written.
Okay, that big words from Prince.
I mean, that is high praise indeed.
It is,
say.
yeah.
The song also won the Ivor Novello Award for the best song musically and lyrically in 2008.
Tony Bennett, one of Amy's idols, said this track breaks his heart, and you can't fake that kind of hurt.
Amy would later work with Tony Bennett. The pair recorded a track called Body and Soul from his Duets 2 album in 2011. Apparently, Amy was incredibly nervous about working with Bennett, who was one of the all-time legends of jazz music. But her vocal performance on the song is superb. It serves as a bit of a full circle moment for Amy, so she's got back to singing pure jazz, which was her first love. And the song also carries a bittersweet historical importance too. This would be Amy's last recording. She passed away just 4 months after it was recorded.
you kind of think, what would Amy Winehouse have gone on to have done after this album if she was still with us, and maybe should have gone back to her jazz roots a little bit more. And, the next album may have been something completely different.
It is a real shame that we never got to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so interesting to see what she went on to do.
Track 7, Tears Dry on Their Own. Now, this is one of my favourites.
Me too.
And it's one of the more well-known tracks, isn't it, on Back to Black? But in soul, jazz and R&B in such a beautiful way.
A bit around that iconic sample from Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell's Ain't No Mountain High Enough, another classic song. Gives it that perfect retro Motown-inspired vibe.
I think this is maybe Amy still dealing with the aftermath of that emotional relationship, but maybe there's a little bit more empowerment in the lyrics. She's maybe getting over it, and she's kind of finding new directions.
So lyrics in the song such as, he walks away, the sun goes down, he takes the day, but I'm grown. That line really speaks to the recurring theme in her music, doesn't it? A lot of emotional depth, especially with her struggles, but there was always this undercurrent of strength. Maybe she was just surrounded by the wrong people at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think she had certainly had a lot of interesting friends who maybe weren't the best for her, and maybe added to some of the substance issues she had, sadly. And as we know, this album was produced by Mark Ronson, who's known for blending retro elements with modern pop soul. It's something he does really well, and it's definitely part of what gives Back to Black that timeless yet contemporary sound.
Okay, move on to track 8, which is Wake Up Alone. So this is a song about Winehouse's desire for a man's love and lays bare her struggles with depression and alcohol, which sadly she succumbed to shortly after this album was released. I'm assuming this song is about her on-off relationship with Blake Fielder Civil, isn't it?
Yeah.
In 2018, Mark Ronson said that this one only took a few takes because it was pretty basic. I mean, it's just 3 tracks. That's pretty much the whole song.
Musically, there's some lovely vintage soul in here. The stripped-down instrumental marked by heavy reverb guitar and gentle drums.
It's considered one of the most lyrically profound and vocally moving tracks in this album, with critics noting its emotional maturity. Okay, so track 9 is Some Unholy War. So
again, his name keeps cropping up. Blake Fielder Civil, inspired by him and that turbulent relationship that they both had. And there's an interesting part of the 2018 documentary, Jack, titled Amy, where her former manager, Nick Szymanski, revealed that the titles track was born from an unexpected source, which was a news broadcast about the war in Afghanistan, where Amy overheard the phrase Holy War and reinterpreted it, applying it metaphorically to her intense relationship and often quite destructive relationship with Blake.
The producer, Salam Raimi, reflected on this track. There's something haunting about this song. I love the horns I was able to create. They almost sound like bugles, but with a sadness to them.
You wouldn't put a bugle as a sad instrument, would you?
No.
There we go.
And that emotional weight is echoed in lyrics like Just Me, My Dignity, and this guitar case, which suggests Amy's inner struggle and the emotional battle that she faced. The song captures the bipolar nature of their relationship, her fierce loyalty and love on one hand, and on the other, a deep desire to escape the emotional war she found herself in. Okay, track 10 then, He Can Only Hold Her.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you'd agree, Jack, but I struggled to get into this track at first. Not so much the actual music, because the music's brilliant, but the meaning behind the track. I think the other tracks that we've talked about are quite obvious as to what they're about. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. It's very subtle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite nuanced.
Yeah.
Something very feminine about it too.
Possibly, and that's why we can't.
Yeah.
us men, we're simple beings, aren't we? We're not as emotionally complex. So it's quite harder to tap into the mindset of what she was trying to say.
Because we're idiots, basically.
We're fools.
Yeah.
So I guess, I had to really sit and listen to this one and focus on the lyrics. With lines like, the man she missed, the man he longs to be, kind of stood out for me, maybe. Thinking about relationships that aren't quite fulfilling. Maybe you were hoping for a little bit more out of that relationship. And when you've not got that, you kind of drift back to what you've had in the past. I mean, that's my kind of perspective on the song.
Yeah, it definitely could be that. I kind of lean toward the idea that it's about addiction. So you've got the line like, the lights are on but nobody's home. So that's a familiar saying which suggests that someone who's physically present but emotionally or mentally checked out.
Yeah.
You got when the song says "What's inside her never dies." That to me feels like a reference to addiction being something that never really leaves you.
Yeah.
Even if you think you've moved on, it's always there waiting to come out.
Yeah.
Musically, it's got quite an upbeat feel, proper 1960s Motown vibes. There are those lively horns, classic R&B rhythms, and rich backing vocals. It's quite a contrast to the darker lyrical themes.
And quite interestingly, Jack, there's a track that interpolates with this song called "My Girl, She's a Fox" by the Icemen. Ever heard of it?
Nope.
It's very, very obscure. It's quite a it's not got much views on YouTube, put it that way. So I went to have a listen, and it's just kind of your typical 1950s pop song,
right?
I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, I just thought
I'll have to dig that out.
Have a little listen, see what you think.
I'll see if it interpolates.
Nice.
Okay, the final track of the album, "Addicted."
A song about someone nicking your weed. Relatable, right?
Maybe not for me, to be honest.
Just me then.
But yeah, to be honest, not my favourite track on the album. Feels a little bit empty compared to the rest. Doesn't quite fit the tone or quality of the other songs. I mean, it's okay, but I wouldn't have given it a spot on the album.
Yeah, particularly as it ends the album, you kind of want a bit of a strong finish, don't you, to such a brilliant album. And interestingly, it didn't actually make the cut for the US version of the album, and probably because of what we said. They swapped it out with a remix of "You Know I'm No Good," which includes a guest verse from Ghostface Killah of Wu-Tang Clan fame.
Why didn't we get that version?
God, we need to go. I've not actually listened to that version. Interesting to see what it sounds like.
That said, though, it's got some good stuff going for it. So musically, there's an upbeat groove. It's got a funky bass line, laid back drums. As ever, Amy delivers with those sharp, effortlessly cool vocals. Her wit and attitude really carry the track.
And let's not forget, this isn't Amy's first nod to psychoactive substances in her music. Ring any bells, Jack?
Are you talking about Mr. Magic?
I am. Well remembered. Well remembered. You are good. Thank you.
So, do you think Amy took drugs then?
No, I don't think so. No, definitely not.
Okay, and that is Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. We've given our thoughts on it, but please do let us know what you think of the album too. As ever, our email address is onemoremusicpod@gmail.com, and you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at onemoremusicpod. Right then, let's just have a look at what people have said about this album over the years. So, Laura Barton in The Guardian spoke on Amy's lyrical style. She said, "Pop music had often cast women as sweet, bright creatures, but Winehouse's lyrics revealed something mulchier, messier. Here was a woman who refused to conform, not in the eccentric madwoman in the attic mould of Kate Bush or Bjork, but a woman who chose to live a little wild, follow her heart, and sing of the simple stew of being female. Her songs were filled with broad talk, cussing, drink and drugs and dicks. Songs that could hinge on one magnificent, unladylike question. What kind of fuckery is this?"
Matt Ronson said, "The pain that she expressed helped so many people get through their own pain. She showed us the darkest part of herself and somehow did it in a way that made people smile. I think that's a neat trick. She was so brutally honest and so wickedly funny, especially when it came to her own assessments."
Tony Bennett spoke about Amy's legacy after her death in 2011. He said, "She was an extraordinary artist and she had so much more to give. If she had lived, I think she would have been one of the greatest jazz singers in history."
And I think it's fitting to kind of give Amy the last word. She said, "I wrote an album that I'm really proud of about a bad situation that I got through. And that's pretty much where it begins and ends for me, taking something ugly and making something beautiful that gives hope to others. I can't think of a better way to use art."
So, what are your final thoughts on the album then?
So again, very personal and emotionally raw. It reveals not only her remarkable vocal talent, but also kind of what an amazing songwriter she is. Especially with the support of Mark Ronson that we've maybe overlooked a little bit in this episode. Some of the lyrics offer brutally honest glimpses into the chaos and pain she experienced in her later years, which makes it all the more heartbreaking. And you can really see why this record is hailed as a modern classic. and why it received such widespread critical acclaim. Such immense talent that was just lost far too soon.
Yeah, I don't think I could have put that any better, to be honest. Truly heartfelt record by an exceptional artist. She was somebody who was able to take the pain and heartbreak of life and turn it into something really beautiful. Tears Dry on Their Own is probably the favourite track for me, but there's so much great stuff on here, and no doubt this is one of the greatest records of the 21st century. And as we've said, such a shame we never got to hear a follow-up to this album. Who knows what she could have gone on to do in her career. Right then, that just about wraps up episode 8 of One More Music Pod. So, next episode, one of my all-time favourite albums, Nevermind by Nirvana from 1991.
Yep.
And Adam, this time it's your turn to try and find us a link between the two albums.
Any listeners out there would like to maybe recommend an album to us?
Yeah.
Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
So, until the next episode, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
See you later.
Goodbye.